Welcome to part 2 of my study abroad diary series. This video is going to be covering our weekend in Florence and a little departure to Venice as well. After a quick 1.5 hour train ride, we arrived in Florence, checked our bags into the hotel, and headed over to the fashion school. But we did get there a little bit early, so we decided to stop at a nearby cafe to grab some pastries. We then headed back to Mould, the fashion school, where we were given a quick tour of the main building, and we were all taken aback by the crazy architecture and details, especially of the ceiling. And then it was time for our guest lecture, which was on the history of Italian fashion. We then continued our tour to Mould's library, which holds an impressive array of books on a variety of topics like materials, Victorian dresses, and pretty much anything you wanted to know they had. We then had the rest of the weekend to explore the city ourselves, and the first place we went to was Gucci Garden, where they had various campaigns set out by Alessandro Michele, the former creative director, which was really cool to see. We continued exploring Florence and ended up in one of the main plazas where we saw a copy of Michelangelo's David right outside of Florence's City Hall. We also got a glimpse of the Duomo, which we would be seeing a lot as it was right down the street from our hotel. All of the walking around made us quite tired, so we did take a little pit stop at the hotel before going out again and seeing the Ponte Vecchio, which is a very famous and well-known bridge in Florence. After meeting up with some of the people from our program, we headed out to dinner at this amazing restaurant that served authentic Tuscan cuisine. I ended up ordering a porcini mushroom pasta dish, and it honestly looks and sounds really simple, but it was one of the best meals I had on the entire trip. That night we observed the Florence skyline from one of the hotel balconies before going out and grabbing our nightly gelato. I ended up getting dark chocolate and pistachio flavored gelato, and this was one of my favorite gelatos of the entire trip, which is saying a lot considering the amount of them that I ate. Look at that view. For our second day in Florence, we didn't really have much of a plan of what we wanted to do. We knew that we wanted to visit some of the touristy attractions, but we hadn't specifically bought tickets for anything. So we just started the day wandering around some shops and bookstores, and then we stumbled across one of the Medici palaces and decided that it would be cool to buy tickets and do a little tour. The Medici family was a very wealthy and prominent family in Florence, and all of their palaces and buildings around the city are very elaborate in their architecture and art, and it was just really cool to see them in person. It was honestly unlike anything I've ever seen before. touring the palace and wandering around the streets for a little bit, we decided it would be a good time to grab some lunch. So we went to a cafe called Shake Cafe. They have a few different locations around Florence, and I had heard good things about them, so we decided to go there. I ended up getting an acai bowl, which was topped with an abundance of different fruit, which was amazing and really refreshing, especially in the hot weather. We then bought tickets to go tour the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. This is a very large art gallery of many floors. It's also very famous and houses some very well-known works of art, including The Birth of Venus by Botticelli. I had honestly never been overly interested in art before, but after visiting Florence, I had a newfound appreciation and love for it. We spent many hours just wandering through the gallery and looking at all of the different works of art.
How long have we been here? Is it from a 3:15. Is it 5? Oh my god. That's a little crazy. Okay. Go for it. Hey, wait, now it's oh my god, I was not ready. Wait. No, don't do me. That was so bad. Why was that so bad? This is gonna be rough. They're wet. Is it cute? It's kind of
After a long day spent wandering around the streets and various art galleries, we were pretty hungry and decided to go grab some pizza at one of the restaurants in Florence. The rest of that night was spent wandering around the streets, looking at the city during the nighttime, and of course grabbing some gelato to end the night. Italy has so many amazing cities, and one of the ones that I had always wanted to visit was Venice. And when I found out that it was only a 2.5-hour train ride away from Florence, I knew that we had to make a day trip there. We spent most of the morning just wandering around the streets. It's very easy to get lost in Venice because the streets are so narrow and there are countless bridges. After grabbing a quick lunch, we decided to do probably the most touristy thing that you can do in Venice, which is a gondola ride. It was honestly worth every second and every penny. We got to learn a lot about the city. We also just got to see a lot of the city that we hadn't seen before. We then wanted to go tour St. Mark's Basilica, but unfortunately we had just missed the last showing. So instead we toured Doge's Palace, which is right next door. I didn't end up filming too much more of the rest of the day, but we basically just grabbed some dinner along the canal, and then we hopped on the train straight back to Florence and went to bed basically as soon as we got back. On our last day in Florence, we all decided that we wanted to walk over to the Boboli Gardens. We had a bit of a hard time finding it, but we eventually stumbled upon it. It's basically a massive park space with various smaller gardens, ponds, and statues situated within it, and it was honestly just a great place to sit down and people watch. As we were waiting for our lunch to arrive, things started to take an interesting turn.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Don't worry. Everything happens for a reason. The universe aligned. Okay. So scared. We're in a restaurant.
We're stuck in Florence. Sophia Loren.
Oh, it's our last day in Florence. We're supposed to leave at 5:15, but apparently there's a strike of all the trains. So we're basically stuck here. But worse things could happen. Unless we don't find a place to stay. It's peak tourist time because I'm so scared. We'll be okay. Or not.
Long story short, after we ate our food, we frantically headed to the train station to figure out what was going on, and were basically instructed by our course organizers to stay in Florence for an extra night. So we found a last-minute Airbnb to book and brought all of our things there. But once we finally got inside the apartment, we found yet another obstacle that we had to deal with.
Oh my god, look at the bathroom. Oh, except for the mold. Wait, where's the mold? Okay. That can't be good. That's why it's cheaper. But you know what?
Is that black mold, guys? Should we be concerned with mold?
Yes.
No, we're only here for that. That's not the room we're sleeping in. Damn, they didn't even try to paint over it? Oh, that's really bad.
Yeah, that's really bad.
Guys, avoid the area.
After we discovered the mold, I ended up contacting the company that we rented the apartment from and explained the situation, and they agreed to give us a different apartment to move to. So while we were waiting for them to respond, we also got some gelato.
This is our nice apartment. It looks nice. Until the molds.
I'm gonna miss her.
On to the next one. First bedroom, very cute. Second bedroom. Doing a tour. This is the bathroom. Living room. And
White wine, red wine, you know.
the kitchen. Not all the band-aids on your feet.
How goes the wine?
I got it. I'm pushing in.
What's up? Why is the wine on the floor?
Oh my god.
Did you get it?
Yeah, but I got
Oh my god, it went all over.
The rest of the night was spent trying to open the complimentary bottle of wine that we got, which ended up not tasting very good, and we ended the night by going out for one final dinner in Florence.